Hey, what's up, my amazing gentle deucers? This is a very special video, and I know that I said to everybody else that I would never do something like this. I said that every Patreon video would also be free on the channel, but for now, this video is only for patrons. It's not just an early release. I may never release this to the public. The information in it is really useful, but at the same time, it has the potential to introduce some competition to my own income. So for you guys, I will do it, but it may not be the kind of information that I want out there public on YouTube. So I've noticed that many of you guys ask questions about sponsorship and making money on YouTube and stuff like that. So I'm making this tips video just for you guys, and I'm really hoping that it answers a lot of questions that you send to me in messages. For those of you guys who have pledged for 4 videos in a month, which I never thought would even happen, this one's for you guys. You guys are amazing. Also, this video is really helping me out because we had some unexpected car repairs and medical bills come our way from the surgery. And since we put so much money into the Moto Mansion, we were having a hard time paying some of those bills. So once again, thank you so much for your pledges. So I thought I would do something extra special this month and go the extra mile with this video. Because if you want to make a little bit of money for riding, this really will help you. Honestly, any one of these tips would probably more than pay you for all of the patronage that you've sent my way, but that's not really what this is about. Personally, I feel like I could never repay what many of you guys have done for me in a lot more ways than just patronage. Anyway, before we get started, here's a little behind the scenes. I have this little Bluetooth earpiece in my ear, and I've actually scripted out the whole thing in writing, and I've edited it several times, then done a voiceover on the computer and edited the voiceover on the computer to make it sound good enough for a video release. Then I copy that voiceover to my phone and play it back in my ear while I'm here in this ridiculously hot garage.
So I'm listening to myself and saying exactly what I'm hearing approximately 2 seconds after I hear it.
It's really hard to learn how to do this, but for me it works way better than a homemade teleprompter, and I can take this anywhere, on the trail or otherwise. Anyway, here goes with the video. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentle tubers? Welcome back to the eveRide Chan. My name is Tyler, and today I'm talking about the 10 ways I get paid for riding motorcycles. So, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not saying this to boost my ego or anything like that. I'm giving these tips because they have legitimately worked for me, and I believe that even though some of them are pretty difficult to do and take a lot of work, they can be done by anybody. And you don't have to have 1 million subscribers to make it work for you. So, recently I've gotten into Pinterest, and all over my Pinterest boards is this one article about clever ways to make money from motorcycling. And while some of these ideas are pretty sound, like making deliveries or renting your motorcycle out, some of them are a bit out of reach for most people. Things like modeling and stunt riding at shows and getting sponsored or having 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Well, I don't have the bust size to be a motorcycle model. I'm an absolute chicken, so stunting is out. And I'm not fast, so sponsorship in the traditional racing sense is a no-go. And I've only got about 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is a lot, but it's not 1 million. And I make hardly anything from YouTube alone. So how do I make it work then? Let's start with the story of how this all happened. A few years ago, I lost my job as a special education teacher when the district let go of every single first and second year special ed teacher. That meant that every special education teaching position in the county would have at least 80 applicants for the foreseeable future. So the degree I worked very hard to get, a master's degree in education with an emphasis in special ed, would be pretty much useless unless I moved away. And we had just barely moved into a house that we'd purchased, so I wasn't in the mood to move. At the time, I was making about $200 a month from this YouTube channel, so I figured I'd try riding motorcycles for money full time and see if I could support my family that way. And before you leave the video thinking it's only about making money on YouTube, keep in mind that YouTube AdSense is a terrible way to make money and only pays me about $400 a month now, and my channel's nearly 10 times as big as it was when I went full-time and made $200. And let me start by saying it was not easy. I fought tooth and nail to support my family while doing what I loved. It has taken thousands upon thousands of hours of hard work, not just on the bikes, but researching and writing, filming, editing, doing voiceovers, responding to probably hundreds of thousands of messages, comments, and emails, and sacrificing a lot of time away from my family. So this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme if you're looking for that. That's going to be a different video. But at the same time, not all of these tips require that much effort. Some of them do, but some of them are really easy and can be done by anybody today. So we'll start with the 10th way that I make money, which makes me the least amount of money but still pays for a few tanks of gas. And that is selling stock photography and video clips to services like Adobe Stock Contributor. I just stumbled upon this about a month ago, so I haven't given it a ton of effort, but if I did, I'm sure it could be a very profitable method, and perhaps the most profitable method. It's very easy. You go out, you take some amazing pictures and videos, you upload them to Adobe's platform, and then when people buy your image or video to use in their own production, you get paid. It's a pretty solid way to go. To keep it basic, you could use just a camera phone or a helmet camera, or you could get nuts like I have and use a drone and a 4K camera and a bunch of equipment. The nice thing about this is that you don't need to film motorcycling specifically. You can film landscapes or nature, animals, cityscapes, anything you want to. The best part about this from your motorcycle is that you can access areas that most people can't, especially if you ride off-road. If you want to see the filming gear that I use, check out the links in the description. Number 9 is the aforementioned YouTube ads. Now here's the thing, YouTube AdSense pays so little now that it's almost not even worth the hassle to set it up. My channel averages only about 250,000 views per month, and in a scheme of things, that's not very many, but it also takes an enormous amount of work to achieve that many views in a month. What do I get for these 250,000 views per month from AdSense? $400. That means for every 100 views I get, YouTube pays me 1 penny. And remember, nowadays, if your content isn't family friendly, meaning you use foul language or talk about any subject that Google deems politically incorrect, you won't make even that one single red cent. However, YouTube has been my foundation for nearly all of the other income streams for motorcycling. Even though YouTube itself pays nearly nothing, in my situation, it is essential that you start growing your audience on YouTube with a YouTube channel, and you'll see why that's critical in just a minute. Now here's the thing, you will need a fairly large audience and a few thousand subscribers at least to make many of these work. Not all of them, but many. So how do you grow your YouTube channel? Well, I wish I could tell you. I've been at this for 6 years and I'm just about to 70,000 subscribers. That's not really Gangnam style numbers there. However, would you rather know about how to get views and subscribers on YouTube or how to make money? You know, views and subscribers make you feel warm and fuzzy, but there are plenty of people with tons of views and tons of subscribers who can barely stay afloat. So YouTube growth. Experts and pros will tell you tips and tricks that kind of work, but the truth is nobody really knows the algorithm. As soon as somebody actually figures it out, YouTube changes it immediately to keep the system from being gamed. Right now, the key is all about watch time. How many minutes are people watching your stuff? How do you get a lot of watch time? Well, the only answer that I have is to make the best content you possibly can, so good that people want to hang around and watch it. That's it. Now here's the deal, you can't guarantee your video will do well. You can't guarantee watch time. One of these experts that I know pretty well, and he's an awesome guy, and I hate to use this example because he has some enormous successes with different channels, but I think those channels already had amazing content and ideas and creators and talent to begin with. Anyway, he said he started his own channel that he assured me would be a smash hit. He featured some of the most popular YouTubers, Instagrammers, Snapchatters as guest hosts on his channel, even one as his main co-host. And he had them all promote it on their channels, on their Instagrams, on their Facebook pages, with cumulatively tens of millions of followers. He used every trick he knew to make this channel go insanely big. He even created gaming videos. So what happened? Well, it's kind of a sad story. While it still exists, I'm assuming that the channel has been scrapped. There haven't been any new uploads for 9 months. It ended with about 18,000 subscribers, which is still ridiculously impressive for a first-year channel. But it didn't meet expectations. Its biggest video reached 141,000 views, far less than the millions that he assured me would happen. And 141,000 views is nothing to scoff at, but far from the ultra-viral channel that it was supposed to become. Other channels have grown way faster, and they weren't piloted by a YouTube expert. In the meantime, his YouTube Tips channel continues to do really well, as does his consulting business. He's still an expert, he still knows his stuff, he still makes plenty of money, and he manages channels with millions of subscribers. But it goes to show that nobody, not even the best of the best and the most expert of experts, can predict what YouTube will do or how they will promote content. YouTube is a big slot machine. Your videos and your time and money producing those videos are just quarters. Most of the quarters you put into the slot machines will go into the machine, and you get next to nothing when you pull the crank. But once in a while you will get a few quarters back. Seriously, I think that's how YouTube's algorithm is. They get you addicted to making YouTube videos with the hope of a viral video, just like Vegas gets you addicted to gambling with the hope of a jackpot. There is literally no difference except for one is money and the other is time and videos. That, in my opinion, is the algorithm, the proven psychological method of gambling to get people hooked. So, in my opinion, the key is to make videos, make them as good as you can, use the best keywords you can find, use the best thumbnails and images that you can find that have relevance to the video, use cards and end screens to link to other videos, and that's about it. But here's the thing, you don't have to have a gigantic YouTube channel for this stuff to work. My YouTube channel is relatively small. It's 1/10 of the size of many of the biggest motovloggers out there, and some of these guys who are 10 times bigger are making far less than I do. But I also know YouTubers that are 1/10 my size, and they make really good money from just one or two of these things alone, which we'll talk about soon. One thing that I'm really proud about my YouTube channel is that I've never had a truly viral video. Most people would complain about that, but I'm happy about it. My growth has been slow and steady from the beginning. I've stuck to my niche, I've maintained my dignity for the most part, and I haven't ever stooped to doing something that I was uncomfortable doing, like using sexy thumbnails or misleading clickbait titles or hurting somebody either emotionally or physically or intentionally risking harm to get views. My thought is that people who do that will get the views and subscribers, but the quality of subscribers and views will be low. I believe that you attract subscribers that are just like you. So if you're fighting and swearing and running from police and mistreating people and complaining and criticizing, that's precisely the audience that you will glean. And those audiences don't make for the best comment sections, nor are they interested in supporting creators by buying merchandise, becoming patrons, or using affiliate links. If you don't believe me, go check out the comment sections in many popular motovloggers' videos and look at their Patreon income and pay attention to their merchandising. Anyway, let's get to number 8, and that is by selling merchandise. I only sell merchandise to a very, very small segment of my audience right now, but it does all right. And if I opened it up to my whole audience, I think it would be okay too. In fact, I'm wearing one of my shirts right now, obviously. Now here's the problem. YouTube is inundated with motovloggers, and motovlogging is one small, relatively obscure niche out of thousands of obscure niches. In fact, I'm basically a motovlogger, but my dual sport niche fits within its own small niche of motovlogging, which is another relatively small niche, which is motorcycles, which is a not so popular YouTube category of automobiles. This is a good and a bad thing. In one way, I'll never get as much exposure as if my YouTube channel were like gaming. On the other hand, I've been fortunate to become a bit of a big fish in a small dual sport pond, and I'll explain more of that later. But basically, selling merchandise is hard. The process is really easy. Just set up a shirt design at one of the many shirt printers out there like Spreadshirt or Teespring. But then you'll be asking your viewers to cough up at least 20 bucks for a fairly low quality shirt with your obscure logo or design on it. Now don't get me wrong, people will buy them, but you better be an exceptional shirt designer or be on their top 5 favorite motovlogger lists to have them even consider buying one. As always, the bigger your audience is, the better the chance you'll have selling merchandise. But let's say you have huge conversions, 5%, and 5% of your audience on a given video buys the shirt. Most YouTubers can manage to get 20% of their total subscribers to watch a video, and then we're saying 5% of those, 20% will buy a shirt. Shirts cost about $15 to print and fulfill, so if you sell it for $20, you're making about $5 per shirt. So with those very optimistic numbers, let's say that you have 10,000 subscribers, which is not a small feat. 20% of those subscribers, so 2,000 people watch the video about your shirt. 5% of the 2,000, so 100 people, buy the shirt. That means that you make $500, which is pretty awesome. But besides those figures being very optimistic, here's the rub. Can you consistently sell a new shirt to the same amount of people month after month? Probably not. So that's why selling merch isn't a very high on the list of the ways to make money. It's viable for maybe one go per year, but not enough to go full-time or support your family alone. However, it is another tool in the toolbox to make some money if you're in a pinch or if you strategize well. Number 7 requires some research, just a little bit of mechanical skill, maybe, some time and some money. But it can pay and doesn't rely on YouTube. That method is to flip motorcycles. In your area, somebody is selling a motorcycle for far less than what it's worth. And your job is to find that motorcycle, get it before anybody else does, fix it up just a little, and flip it for a profit. So set up a search alert for new motorcycles that you know a lot about, specifically common problems and how to fix those problems. Then scour Craigslist and local classifieds for those motorcycles. Get to know the market for the bikes, and when a bike pops up for far less than what the market is, go pick it up. Fix it if you need to, clean it meticulously. Make a YouTube video or two about it if you want to, then sell it for a profit. If you do this right, you might make $100 or you might make $1,000. If you do it wrong though, and you miss a major mechanical problem on the bike when you buy it, it might cost you money. If you can do this right just one time per month, that's more than enough to pay for a motorcycling habit. And if you get good at it, it might be enough on its own to go full time. Now, the way that I do this is a little bit questionable, but I never register the title in my name. I buy the motorcycle, I get the title, I don't fill it out. When the person who buys it from me gets it, they can fill out the title, and that way I don't have to pay sales tax on it, except for on the money that I make. Number 6 is also mentioned in the Pinterest article, and that's to rent your motorcycle or motorcycles while you're not using them. This coincides nicely with flipping motorcycles because if you get a really good deal, you might not want to sell the motorcycle, but instead build up a little bit of a rental fleet. This works particularly well if you live in a popular tourist destination like a big city or near a national park. Just advertise on Craigslist or through your YouTube channel or through other local services. Price the daily bike rental competitively, like $80 to $100 per day is usually a pretty solid deal. Then rent the bikes out. Now here's the problem. You should definitely set up an LLC, get appropriate insurance, and probably hire a lawyer to write up a rock-solid waiver and disclaimer to protect you from any legal action should the renter get hurt while riding your motorcycles. Tip number 5 is very similar and can work in tandem with renting your motorcycles, and that's giving motorcycle tours. Take your clients to unique landmarks around your city, show them the places to eat that only locals know, visit amazing national landmarks or historical sites, and give a little history lesson. Go on amazing local twisty roads, show them back roads and beautiful overlooks. Show them the best trails, roads, and landmarks that you possibly can, and give them a value and an experience that they won't forget. If they want to, give them some riding tips, or even forget the tour part and make it a beginner's moto class. But make sure that you know the basics before you start teaching people. Grab a couple of Bluetooth headsets so that you can talk with them while you ride. This method, combined with motorcycle rental, has turned into some pretty decent coin for me recently. Number 4 can be very profitable, but can also be a nightmare if you do it wrong. It could have its very own video because it can get so complicated, and that is sponsorship. Remember what I said earlier about being a big fish in a little pond? Well, when you find a small niche, but then work yourself to death to be a big player in that niche, people who sell products in that niche are going to notice. And I'm going to say niche as many times as I can because I know that it drives the people who say niche crazy. Anyway, when most people think of professional motorcycling, sponsorship is the first thing that comes to mind. Sponsorships can pay out an enormous sum, or they can be a good way to get a few free things. But keep in mind, though, that with sponsorship, there is no such thing as getting something for free. Sponsors expect you to promote their stuff, whether they're giving you product or paying you to promote. And remember that sponsors are hearing from so many people every day that want free things. Now, obviously, if you're going to get paid by sponsors, you're going to need a large media outlet so that you can break through all those other people who want free stuff for having 100 subscribers on YouTube. But that outlet doesn't have to be just YouTube. It can be Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or a combination of any or all of those, and even on social media sites that I haven't mentioned or that haven't even been created yet. 2 really solid tools that I use to pitch to sponsors are called Clout, with a K, and Social Blue Book. There are links in the description for you to check those out. Clout is pretty basic. You plug in your social media outlets and it gives you a score based on your influence in the topics that you generally produce content about. Scores in the 40s are normal internet users. 50s are a little more. 60s are generally considered to be sponsor-worthy. 70s are like pseudo-celebrities. 80s are celebrities, and 90s are presidents and Justin Timberlakes and stuff. Clout gives you one number, and while that number is powerful to those who know what a Clout score is, most people in the motorcycling industry have no idea what Clout even means or what it does. So Social Blue Book is a much better tool in my opinion. Like Clout, Social Blue Book takes into account all of your social media presence. Followers, average views, view duration, comments, likes, audience growth, and all that stuff. But instead of just giving you a number like Clout does, it gives you actual prices for different promoted content. So here's what my Social Blue Book looks like right now. This is cool because it gives you prices for different pieces of content on different platforms. So let's say I tell a company that I would do a YouTube video or a Facebook post, 3 Instagram posts, and copy these photos to Twitter. Then I add all those up, take a screenshot, and include that in my email to make the pitch to a sponsor. It's really pretty easy, but again, you'll have to build up your social media presence to make any of that happen, and that can take a lot of work. So sponsorships can be good or bad. On one hand, they're money. On the other hand, sponsors have their thumb on you, and you better say nice things about their stuff or you're going to get canned. Before entering into any kind of sponsorship agreement, make sure to create a contract that says exactly what you will and won't do, and what they can do. Sponsors can also really foul up the creative process. One time I created a video for a sponsor, uploaded it, it got 10,000 views, and they didn't like it, so they didn't pay me. I had to make a completely new video where they critiqued every little detail and censored everything I said before they actually paid me. That's not cool. Sponsorships can also compromise the integrity of a review and compromise your gear. If you get sponsored and then they send you some crappy gear, if you want to get paid, you've got to use that gear, even if you'd prefer something else. Luckily, I've had some pretty rad sponsors in my day. Rocky Mountain ATVMC and KLR Dash, just to name a few, have been amazing. Others have been pretty cool, and still others have lowballed me and not paid me, or sent crappy gear that I couldn't promote, or just plain had bad communication. When pitching to a sponsor, even if it's just for free gear or whatever, make sure to include that they're not just reaching an audience through you, but that they're getting free video production. Cite how many hours it takes you to make a video and ask them to compare that with what they would pay to have a video made in-house. The third best way that I make money riding motorcycles has been a crazy surprise to me. And when I started doing this, I had no idea how high it would be on this list, but it is to rent out space to motorcyclists, or to anybody for that matter, on Airbnb. Now here's the thing, you can do this without having anything to do with motorcycling, or you can offer to let people use your garage, your tools, have it be a moto-themed listing like I do. People from your YouTube channel in particular may be interested in coming to your place, hanging out, and going for a ride. Combine this with hosting tours and renting motorcycles, and you've got a seriously good business going on. And it doesn't have to be the whole house or even a sectioned off part of the house. You can simply do a private room or even a cot on the floor for that matter. I have seen on Airbnb garages for rent. Seriously, and people will book it. But here's the surprising thing. When it's on Airbnb, anybody can book it, not just people from your audience. Anybody. It has been so easy that I've been shocked. Renting out a place to stay through Airbnb is now close to surpassing affiliate sales as one of my top income streams. If you want to come hang with me, perhaps take a tour and ride one of these motorcycles, that link is in the description as well. Method number 2 of how I make money from riding motorcycles has been paying my bills for nearly 3 years, and was what saved the channel from extinction when I lost my teaching job. Like I said earlier, it's affiliate sales. Affiliate sales are perhaps the easiest way to make money on YouTube. You could make a video per day reviewing random crap throughout your house, not even motorcycle stuff, and make bank. The way it works is that you sign up for affiliate networks like Amazon, eBay, Commission Junction, whatever. Some of them have requirements about how big you have to be on social media, and Amazon in particular has very strict rules on what you can and can't do, which you should absolutely follow. The way that I made affiliate sales work for me was to offer free stickers, stamps and all, to anybody who promised to go use the links at eveRide.org whenever they shopped online. That meant sending out nearly $3,000 in stickers. But luckily, that action, along with following links in my videos, has made me at least $1,000 per month pretty consistently since I started doing this in 2014. Now be careful, because from what I know, offering free anything in exchange for people to click your affiliate links is against the rules for most affiliate networks. A better, safer way to go would be to just review random stuff that you have, or buy something you want for motorcycling for Amazon anyway, then do a review and link back to it with your affiliate code. The nice thing about affiliate sales is that you get a commission for the entire purchase, not just for the item that you link to. That means that if somebody goes to Amazon through my link to buy a $1 valve stem cap, but then they buy $100 in diapers to get free shipping or something, I get commission for the whole $100 purchase, not just on the cap, and that's pretty awesome. Another cool thing is that it doesn't have to be that visit either. On Amazon, if somebody buys anything within 24 hours of visiting through my link, I get the credit. And on many sites, if anybody buys something within a month of visiting through my link, I get the credit still. That's incredible. The cons about affiliate sales is that you have to have a decent sized audience. You have to follow some pretty crazy rules or you might get kicked out of the program. You have to reach a minimum sales threshold before you get paid. And it's a bit of a hassle to get the link on an item for just about everywhere but Amazon. Also, many affiliates, including Amazon, have cut their partner payouts by about 50% lately. Sadly enough, they can cut their commission percentages all they want, and affiliates like me are powerless to do anything about it. And now it's what you've been waiting for, the very first top way that I make the most money from riding a motorcycle. It's called Patreon. Now here's the thing, I don't know how this happened. I'm not an expert at Patreon. I'm not some kind of mastermind at getting people to randomly send me money. I do have an undergrad in behavioral science and business leadership, but crowdfunding wasn't invented for many years until after I graduated. Personally, I thought that creating a Patreon account would just totally tank, just like it has tanked for nearly every other motovlogger who has tried it. I did it as more or less a last-ditch effort to save the channel after a few years of surviving on affiliate sales and sponsorships. I was putting in too many hours and spending too much time away from my family, and my wife gave me an ultimatum. I either needed to find a job teaching again, which at the time meant that I would be riding more often and spending more time with my family, or find a way to ease the burden from the YouTube channel. Hawking affiliate products and bending over backwards for sponsorships was making money, but it was getting really tiring, and it totally sucked the creativity out of all of the work that I did. So I tried Patreon, just a teaser on my Raw channel, and nearly 100 people signed up. Not long after I posted a video on my main channel, and over the course of a year, nearly 300 patrons have signed up, voluntarily paying me nearly $1,300 for every professionally produced video that I put out, including this one, despite my continual reminders for them to take care of their families and their own motorcycling hobbies first. Guys, I don't follow all the motovloggers out there, but there are thousands. I do follow a handful of the biggest ones, and to my knowledge, even the guys over 500,000 subscribers, even the few with over 1 million, no motovlogger makes more on Patreon than I do, with just about 70,000 subscribers. Now again, I'm not saying this to brag or to toot my own horn. I was utterly surprised at the patron response. I expected, best case scenario, maybe $300 per video, which would have meant a little under $1,000 extra per month with 3 videos. Just enough to cover me in case Amazon affiliates or YouTube AdSense tanked. And guess what? They did. A few months ago, both of them cut their payouts by about 50%, which I mentioned earlier. So Patreon really did save the channel. Now, if you think about it, even though the Patreon response was beyond my wildest dreams, statistically, Patreon doesn't work very well, even in my case, and my case is one of the best cases out there. I have nearly 70,000 subscribers right now, and only 300 patrons. That means that less than 0.5% of my entire audience is patrons. By those figures and ratio, you need 200 subscribers to get just 1 patron. So it may be my top income source, but to this day, I'm not sure how. And for many other hardworking YouTubers, it hasn't been viable for them. Even the YouTube expert that I mentioned before, with at least 5 times as many subscribers and way more useful information than I have, started a Patreon and makes half of what I do per video, with only 1/10 of the patrons. So somewhere along the way, I've done something that worked. Chalk it up to knowing some amazingly generous people. Anyway, the truth is, I don't know how or why so many patrons decided to pledge. I can only guess, but here are some of the things that I do that might have helped. First, I made a promise that any patron-funded video would be professionally produced, the best that I could make it, Whether that means cinematic or informational or unsponsored reviews, I promised that Patreon videos would take a lot of work and that they would be my very best. They couldn't be a regular motovlog or some thrown together thing. They had to be special, either in scenery, in story, or in information, like this one is. Secondly, I try to give back all that I can with good perks to my patrons. I tried to send them stickers and keychains, even if the post office continually returns most of them for inadequate postage, which is a bogus thing. I've sent out dozens of free shirts, given free tours, let patrons ride my motorcycles, let patrons stay in my kids' rooms at my house. In the beginning, I said I would do random giveaways for patrons, but I found out that Patreon doesn't allow that because it's too close to gambling, which is illegal in most states. When I announced to my patrons that I couldn't do that anymore, I expected a mass exodus, but they all stayed, not one left. Now I'm doing the Moto Mansion and giving patrons huge discounts when they come and stay, both on lodging and on motorcycle rental over the competition in the area. Third, I try to be completely real and honest about everything I do. I'm transparent about how I make money. I'm transparent about what I buy with that money. I'm transparent about how many hours I work, how I'm feeling, and about my problems in life, like depression and anxiety and family issues and all that stuff. I'm brutally honest, perhaps to a fault, because it drives away sponsors, about the gear that I test. I was open about my financial situation when I was broke, and I'm open about my financial situation now that I'm doing pretty well. Fourth, I've really reduced the amount of comments and messages that I reply to on the main channel. Instead, I spend my time responding to every single message and almost every comment sent to me by my patrons. They get one-on-one access to me personally, whether that's just to shoot the breeze and talk motorcycles, to any wrenching advice that I might be able to give, to these kind of YouTube tips, to family hardships, whatever they have to say, they have my ear. And I think that's why they became patrons in the first place, because they already had my ear. And while it's been a bit sad to drastically cut back on responding to YouTube and Instagram and Facebook communications, I reserve that enormous amount of time spent typing through private communications for the people who openly support my channel, my patrons. I think it's only fair that since they spent time making money, some of which they sent to me through their patronage, that I spend my time answering any and all questions and comments that they may have about any topic. If you are a patron and you haven't messaged me, do it. It's been really good to get to know so many people and in some cases be very personal with people. But it is way better to meet you guys in person. The fifth tip I have about Patreon is to not overdo it. If you're going to set up a Patreon, don't make your channel all about it. I've been a patron to channels like that that I really liked, but then the videos became littered with little blurbs and pop-ups all about Patreon. The end of the videos talked only about Patreon, nothing but Patreon. There were call-outs in the middle of the video, interrupting the flow, where the creator stopped the cinematic part of the video and talked about how he needed the support on Patreon. The description of the videos was all about Patreon. The channel homepage was all about Patreon. So it became a channel about Patreon and mediocre videos. And it was no longer about motorcycling. So I canceled my patronage, and eventually I unsubscribed from the channel because it got so bad. So if you're going to talk about Patreon, make it pretty rare. If people want to support you, they will find your Patreon. It doesn't need to be shoved in their faces every single video. One way to remind people gently that Patreon is there without being overbearing is to sincerely thank the patrons on the videos that they supported. Bring it up when the conversation is natural, but don't kill the flow of the video to cram it down somebody's throat. Showing real and genuine gratitude for patrons and donors is a good way to remind people that Patreon and donations exist without being so in your face. And sixth, and this one is kind of a shot in the dark, but I think it's the demographic of my audience. It certainly wasn't ever planned this way, but I think it does make an impact. Most motovloggers are in the sport bike, supermoto, dirt bike genres. They tend to attract young guys to their channels through a lot of hooligan stuff, stunts and pranks, funny stuff that I like, but it doesn't attract a lot of older guys. Well, it just so happens that dual sports and adventure motorcycles aren't as appealing to teens as sport bikes and wheelies and supermotos and stuff. But they are appealing to older guys. Mature guys who have jobs, who have families, who have a little extra income, and who are done with the high adrenaline stuff like dirt bikes and crotch rockets and supermotos and wheelies, and they just want to ride some trails and enjoy some scenery. The vast majority of my patrons are exactly those guys. Many of them say they don't need or want little baubles like stickers and keychains, and they don't plan on ever coming and riding with me or staying at the Moto Mansion. They just like the escape of a video once in a while to remind them to get out and ride for themselves. And they support for no other reason than to support. I don't know how that works, but I really, really appreciate them. So in finale, here's the thing. To make it full-time, I've had to keep creating ways to generate income without pulling my focus off the things I love to do that don't burn me out, riding motorcycles and creating motorcycle videos. Every time something has worked, I've wanted to create a backup plan for it just in case something happened, just in case something changed or failed. That was the impetus for the Moto Mansion, for the Airbnb idea, for the affiliate sales. That was the case with Patreon. All of them were just backup plans. My point is, any one of these methods have made money for short term, for a few months at least. The key is to keep inventing ways to stay afloat in case one of them goes down or cuts payouts like Amazon and YouTube did recently. So right now, Patreon by far is my main source of income. In the future, I plan to have enough varied income sources that I can either reduce Patreon-funded videos or stop using Patreon completely. For now, that's certainly not the case, and Patreon continues to save the channel daily, even though the other income sources are getting a little bit better. Hopefully soon, though, I'll have other income sources, some moto-related and some not so much, that will see me through without so much risk and without so much help from patrons. So there you have it, my top 10 income sources from riding motorcycles. Now obviously, it's not just riding motorcycles. They take a bit of extra work as well, like editing, research, writing, voiceovers, filming, but they do work, and I am living proof. Also know that I had to invest a lot of money to make the money that I make now, mainly for the Airbnb apartment and the rental motorcycles. And as of right now, in June, year to date, the eveRide business is still $8,000 in the hole. But once I'm out of the hole, even after the typical expenses, it's a very livable wage, better than I ever made as a teacher. And I have my patrons and my Moto Mansion guests and those who buy shirts and those who are kind enough to use my affiliate links, all to thank for that. Now keep in mind, that wasn't overnight. That was after 4 years of YouTubing full-time, making around $4 to $6 an hour, even on sponsored content. It's a lot of work, you guys, but it does work, and it's finally working for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and much love to all of you. eveRide out.